Hello? Uh-oh. Now my phone is acting up. Try the other one.
Pathetically self-deprecating Senator Tim Scott, Vivek Ramaswamy, and the very rich and bored governor of North Dakota, Doug Burgum. It only cost you a little more than $814,000 for a fancy seat and $250,000 for the plebe seats. Now, look, I'm no mathematician, okay? I'm not a mathematician, but if I just do some just quick back of the envelope calculated, $454,000, okay, $454,000 divided by 814. Let's see, 814, 600. Okay, carry the two. Let's see. That means that Donald Trump and his MAGA-lites will only need to sell. Hold on a second. Carry the three. Just going to carry the. They'll only need to sell 557 tickets to settle his debts with New York. Unleash the Kraken. Isn't it good that the presumptive nominee of the RNC and the RNC don't have a lot of cash to actually help them win the election? I mean, it's just not sustainable because it's kind of hard to run a campaign without money.
Joy is always breaking it down. Absolutely. Imagine that. 250,000 a plate. 5 tickets sold, huh? And you can imagine who bought those 5 tickets. Let's see, Tim Scott, Clarence Thomas, Byron Donald. It's Friday. The White House announced more student loan debt forgiveness. And yesterday I spoke with Education Secretary Miguel Cardona about that. Um, and of course, they are very, very excited about being able to provide this relief despite the Supreme Court and what it has done. We'll talk about that this morning as well. And on Monday, Letitia James is expected to ask a judge to pave the way for her to start seizing Trump's assets because he can't pay the bond needed to appeal a massive verdict. But Letitia James did not wait. Yesterday, she pulled a Trump card. It'll tell you what she did yesterday and has the Trump world shook. U.S. Attorney's Office is suing Apple, saying, among other things, that it has a monopoly on smartphones. And Candace Owens gets to talk to the Breakfast Club. I have some thoughts on that. And MC Lyte has dropped a new women empowerment song with Salt from Salt and Pepper, Big Daddy Kane, and Raheem DeVaughn. She exclusively gave us the song. Gosh, it's been about a week now. We spoke with MC Lyte yesterday. There's a story about it today. The song drops this morning. Um, you know, she's doing her thing, and it's all about women empowerment. Perhaps we can play a little snippet of it this morning. Uh, we will talk about that and more. There's a couple of things, though, we're going to talk about as well, just briefly, just to kick things off. If you invested in any sport today, particularly baseball and basketball and football, you know, Sometimes you gotta shake your head. Yesterday, so the NAACP, the NCAA tournament, NAACP needs its own tournament. It should be HBCUs only. But the NCAA tournament, March Madness, is completely underway, and it is totally madness. Yesterday, a team I've never even heard of, but I was watching um, the game. I was in an establishment, and I saw the name Sanford. I'm like, Sanford, I know Sanford, Sanford. And it turns out Sanford, they have some really, really interesting, not interesting, but really good basketball players who happen to be black. And they were playing Kansas, lily white Kansas. And they were robbed. They were robbed in plain sight. I mean, this they take the officials take away the excitement. How do you come to the last seconds of the game? Kansas had a player on Kansas. I don't know these guys, but has the ball going in for a fast break dunk. But young man from Sanford wasn't having that. This was the game. He scores, Kansas wins. He stops them, Sanford wins. And best believe it was the block of the century. The block of the century. I mean, he caught all ball, caught up to homie and got the ball. Referees called a foul, a shooting foul, which um, he then sank the two free throws and won. Now, here's the thing: they have replay for a reason, and the referees were saying that they were out of challenges, no more. This is a win or go home, and that this is what the tournament is all about. March Madness is all about win or go home. And you gotta review that because it was dead wrong. He touched no part of the opponent's body, no part of it. And they called a foul. This is why people say the fix is in. And makes you believe the fix is in. And speaking of, and before I get to that, because I'm going to talk about Shohei Otani again, but baseball, they continue to ruin that sport too. Yesterday, I saw something unbelievable. So they instituted this new rule where if a guy is stealing, um, trying to steal a base, the second baseman or the shortstop, whoever's covering the base, cannot in any way obstruct the base. Okay, you say fair enough on his face. Yesterday, in a game between the New York Mets and the Miami Marlins, I believe the Marlins guy attempted to steal second base, and he was out by about 20 steps. But to everybody's astonishment, he was called safe. He saw the umpire just signaling safe, and you're like, huh? Said Francisco Lindor blocked the base. The guy was barely off first base, and Lindor simply waited at second base to put the tag on him. They are ruining these sports. And yesterday, I brought to you that story about Shohei Otani, and I mentioned how his interpreter fumbled the bag. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. And Power 96 says that block on, by the way, Sanford, he calls it a top three of all time. But Shohei Otani, it turns out, and Major League Baseball is protecting him like they're the Secret Service and he's the president in a war zone. Um, so the larger story as it starts to come out is that the $4.5 million in bets that were placed, supposedly none of it on baseball, and I thought that was interesting that they said they made it a point to say none of the bets were on baseball. It was on soccer, it was on football. Now baseball is like other sports now, um, are entrenched um, in gambling now. They have teams in Vegas. They're entrenched in gambling. When I go to Madison Square Garden, they pretty much renamed the suites that we sit in from the Madison Club to the Caesars Sportsbook Lounge, and um, so sports is entrenched with gambling now. And you see all the gambling commercials now. Pete Rose was banned for life. I'm not a Pete Rose fan in any sense, but he was banned for life for gambling, and gambling on baseball though more specifically. But Shohei Ohtani, interpreter, allegedly used $4.5 million of Shohei's money. They called it massive fraud, um, to pay off his bookie. Well, it turns out that the money was in the name of Shohei Ohtani. And it turns out that this interpreter, when you think about it, and I should have thought about this yesterday, but neither did other people who cover sports think about it until more information started coming out. The accountant and your CPA, they have access to your accounts, not the interpreter. The interpreter did not have access to Shohei Ohtani's account. You see where we going with this, folks? Shohei, who just signed a $700 million contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. They were made in Shohei's name from Shohei's accounts, the wire transfers. Four different wire transfers, $4.5 million directly from Shohei Ohtani's bank account. The interpreter did not have access to that bank account. So the story that they spun, and the morning of this, by the way, there's footage, and you see in a photo there, but there is footage of Shohei and the interpreter talking in the dugout. And of course, all the memes are wondering. There's so many different memes. The morning of, and now at this point, the morning of the revelation, I should say, because this was supposed to have been uncovered the night before. It was uncovered the night before that $4.5 million transfers were being made. And the speculation is that the interpreter, who I may have informed yesterday by saying he fumbled the bag, the interpreter is taking the fall because it would be the biggest scandal since Pete Rose. And this is Shohei is the face right now of Major League Baseball. And Major League Baseball, with all its intertwinement in gambling, it would be such a black eye. And um, Shohei refused to talk to reporters. They had, after the game, there's always the press in the locker room. They had Dodger PR and Dodger personnel surround Shohei as he got dressed and left the stadium. And so what happened so far, what we do know, Shohei and his team it was them who got the interpreter to release a statement to ESPN first, taking the hit. And then the statement, it turns out, didn't add up. Because at first they said in the statement, he was saying that this was something Shohei knew nothing about, et cetera, et cetera. They went out of their way to say it was nothing. Shohei knew nothing about it, but they did not tell you that this was coming from Shohei's account with Shohei's name on it, and the debt that he was sending to these bookies was in Shohei's name. The debt is in Shohei's name. So this idea, and so you say, okay, he knew about this so-called massive fraud for at least 12 hours. And then he's smiling and laughing and joking with his interpreter 12 hours later. If somebody stole $4.5 million from you, are you gonna be laughing and joking with them, howling around? I mean, they were seen just, I mean, patting them on the butt and stuff like that, like they do in sports, and laid back, in the dugout, just chilling. He went about his day, and so the heat started coming in. His people, Shohei's people, started, hey, and then they quickly huddled up with Shohei and his interpreter, and all of a sudden the interpreter is just taking the fall. And the interpreter's statement said, ultimately, I didn't know that I was doing anything wrong. You know why he didn't know he was doing anything wrong? It appears that he was covering, that he was the middle person between Shohei and the bookie. And what makes it bad is that we're not talking about Caesar's Sportsbook. We're not talking about, Vegas. We're talking about a bookie, an illegal bookie. Otani, according to Power 96, Otani's interpreter is pulling a Pete Rose. Otani needs to be banned or put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. And you're seeing a lot of that on social media. Do something about Otani or put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. The jig is up, Major League Baseball. The jig is up. And I saw this post yesterday. It has nothing to do with baseball. Before we get into our routine topics, when we talk about racism, this guy on Twitter, he uses the name Modern Man, um, and he writes this, and I thought it was interesting. He says the Republicans have no idea for America except playing a cruel game of quote takeaway, and he lists the takeaways: women's bodily autonomy, voting rights, books they fear, food for kids, Social Security, funding for allies, health care, and democracy. Thought that was such a great post. I had to lift it up this morning. And, the dude's name is, he uses the name Modern Man on Twitter. So, and speaking of taking away, how about taking away some debt? And another significant move toward alleviating financial burdens on public service workers, President Biden declared yesterday the approval of nearly $6 billion in federal student debt cancellation. According to the White House, the initiative should benefit about 78,000 eligible people, including teachers, nurses, and firefighters. And spoke with Miguel Cardona, the education secretary, yesterday, and he was saying that despite the Supreme Court's actions and the GOP's efforts to stop student loan forgiveness, the president has been able to forgive a record amount of loans, and that they were still looking for other ways to um, reach out and have student debt erased. And he said, in the meantime, they're going to continue to try and reason with the unreasonable. He didn't say the unreasonable. Well, I'm saying it. Um, the MAGA folks to try and do something through Congress, because the Supreme Court did say that if he went through Congress, it would be a different story. And Mike V, you're absolutely right that Modern Man, what a great, an excellent analysis in 140 characters. But the student loan debt, what they're doing this time, public sector. So they are also working on another plan. See, remember they did the SAVE plan, and once you got in the SAVE plan, this is post Supreme Court ruling. Once you got in the SAVE plan, you were able to have debt forgiven because he didn't need to go to Congress for that. And now they're trying to figure out another plan that they don't have to go through Congress or the Supreme Court for. So again, some good news from the Biden Harris administration. Secretary Cardona said that from day one, the administration had promised to fix broken student loan programs and make sure higher education is a ticket to the middle class not a barrier to opportunity. And the president said he won't back down from using every tool at his disposal to deliver student debt relief to more Americans and build an economy from the middle out and bottom up. And Mike V adds that don't forget conservatives wanted to block and sue student loan relief because it would benefit black folks in the process. Isn't that what it's all about? Isn't that, we just modern man on Twitter in those 140 characters, Mike. That's exactly what he broke it down for us, right? And so again, kudos to the Biden Harris administration for it's one thing to get knocked down, but it takes a real person, real man, real woman to get back up and fight another day. And the Supreme Court knocked the vice president and the president down, and they jumped right back up, dusted themselves off, and got right back up on this. So kudos to those um, to that administration. Power 96. Listen, Power 96. Debt forgiveness. This is what it's all about. He says that his son is still on the hook to him. He says he's about to start repoing his car and artwork. He wants his money. It's just not. We're in the spirit of debt forgiveness, Power 96. You got to forgive your son's debt. Oh, boy. This guy. He's watching. He's got a Freaknik party going on tonight. He's inviting everyone to come by. He's been waiting for this for like ever. He says that he says his wife already knows that he was very much complicit in Freaknik, but he's also grateful. He says that they don't have any video from then, that the internet wasn't around at that time. This guy, he's a veteran, y'all. So in New York, the Attorney General's office has filed judgments. This is what she did last afternoon. I was going to say last night, but I meant yesterday afternoon. As we wait, Monday was supposed to be the big day, and it is a big day in that situation where where she can make a formal filing to start seizing Trump's properties. But then, as Trump and his minions waited and tried to stave off Monday, she made a move in Westchester County yesterday. Is the first indication that the state is indeed preparing to seize Donald Trump's golf course up there in Westchester County and private estate north of Manhattan, known as Seven Springs. State lawyers entered the judgments with the clerk's office yesterday after Judge Arthur Engoron made official his $464 million decision against the twice impeached, 4 times indicted former president and his sons, Don Jr. and Eric, and the Trump organization. The decision against Trump and the difficulty the former president, is having securing a bond while he appeals the verdict. Doesn't it strike directly at his image as a billionaire? And he's been attempting to raise more cash for both his legal bills and his run to the White House for the White House. But entering this judgment is going to be the first step a creditor would take to attempt to recover the property. There's going to be additional steps. They're going to have to put liens on assets, um, move things to foreclosure, and taking some more action. They're going to get the sheriffs involved. They haven't yet, and this is another thing that is expected at some point, unless they're stopped by a judge, is engage the sheriffs in Florida, and that's when it's really going to hit the fan, right? Because they're going to go after his Mar-a-Lago at that point. But there's a lot of issues still. So what they're also finding, which is no surprise to anybody paying attention, and the problem is today, not many pay attention. But what they're finding, like for instance, Trump Tower, 40 Wall Street, his hotel that's uh, by Central Park, and other apartment buildings. The problem is, A, he doesn't fully own all of those properties that have his name on it that he's involved in. He's he's in some cases a minority stakeholder. And then there are other cases where he is the majority owner, but then there are tenants involved. So what they have to do is they have to weed through a lot of stuff to find out exactly what part he owns, and then how to proceed from there. Because Trump has mostly been smoking mirrors, and with all of the bankruptcies and things of that nature, um, he he's not in. He's never been in the shape until he won the White House. He's never been in the shape until Russia put him into the White House. He's never been in the financial shape that he had told. When Fred died and left him some money, that's the only time he had been in the black. And so he scrambles. And that movie is so true. The title of that movie with Danny DeVito, Other People's Money. He's always used other people's money. And now he wants the poor Kool-Aid drinking supporters to pay his tab. That's what he's about. It's unreal. And so the other thing he's bragged about is that while he's filed bankruptcy, he's never filed personal bankruptcy. Well, this might be the time that he is going to finally have to own up to filing personal bankruptcy, because nobody so far, he's sat down with Elon Musk and other wealthy individuals, and nobody's opened the wallet for 464 million. Who would? Why would they? Rich people don't give money away. Wealthy people don't give money away. I mean, unless you like a foundation like the Bill and Melinda Gates, just don't give it away. And it's got to be a reason I mentioned the foundations. It got to be a reason. It's got to be a cause, not a not a criminal or civil situation. You got to be demonstrating that you are helping somebody with the 464 million. You're not helping anybody. So, uh, Don, it's time to face the music. Well, yesterday, the U.S. Department of Justice joined 16 states and district attorney generals in suing Apple. They allege that they have a monopoly on the smartphone market. The lawsuit was filed in Jersey and accuses Apple of violating Section 2 of the Sherman Act by maintaining a stranglehold over smartphones through restrictive contractual terms and withholding critical access points from developers. Attorney General Merrick Garland uh, said consumers should not have to pay higher prices because companies violate the antitrust laws. So they're going after Apple. And isn't it interesting? Not that they shouldn't go after Apple, but isn't it interesting that Merrick Garland came out swinging? I mean, he said a whole lot more that I'm not even going to bother with. The only reason, because he comes out swinging in a case like this. But where were you on January 7th, 2021? I mean, need we say more? Need we say more? Angela Connolly says Attorney James grabbed Trump by the. Oh my, my, my. Yeah, you know, it's hard to put any celebratory spin on anything Merrick Garland does. Um, so we will just let you know. If you didn't know, now you know. Apple is being sued for a monopoly, and if the case is settled, which these cases usually are settled, it will open up the smartphone market some more for others. And so there you have it. We will still be spending big money on iPhones and iPads and whatever else. My question of the day for Charlemagne and Joe Budden and others: why would you platform Candace Owens? Why? Um, it really is sinful to do so. And not only that, it's a grave, unforgivable sin to not only to platform it, but it becomes unforgivable when you just let her spew her nonsense and don't challenge her on anything. And Charlemagne and his crew, they did that. Joe Budden did it before him. But these people are so lost. I, I- I- Listen, I get the whole idea that some people will bring viewers, eyeballs, which is what everybody wants. If I ran into Candace Owens by chance, if by some weird situation says she offers to be on Let It Be Known, before nearly throwing up, I would just simply tell her, okay, we got to keep it G rated. But nonetheless, it wouldn't happen. It would not happen. And again, not saying that she would want to come on here, but she seems to be gravitating more and more toward black centered programs now, because and it's obvious, right? Angela, yeah, it's obvious why. It's election time, so she's doing the bidding of her masters. If she can make herself seem somewhat likable to black folks. But then look what she does. Charlemagne is so, I mean, he doesn't know whether he's coming or going on stuff. He doesn't do any homework, obviously. Doesn't push back at all. He will push back on a rapper coming on there and talking about who's the best, something as meaningless as that. But he will allow this self-hating, race-hating, horrible, low life, disgusting individual to come on and say anything that makes her feel good. Because make no mistake about it, it's not about you feeling good. It's all about her. And I would love to see, as much as I say that you shouldn't platform her, I would love to see her uh, talk to Joy Ann Reid. Joy would have her for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a little dessert. It's just, and it would need to be a woman because I know Roland would give her a real once over, but it would have to be a woman to really put her in her place, at least during whatever segment that might be. Because this person, this person is as disgusting twice as disgusting as you think Clarence Thomas is. There's She comes out every time. George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and she goes in on defending the police, the white folks, the white police. And you got a whole world after George Floyd marching saying Black Lives Matter, and this chick comes out marching talking about White Lives Matter, and George Floyd deserved what he got. She referred to District Attorney Fonnie Willis as a ghetto superstar. And yeah, Tucker Carlson paid her to come on the show and talk about black people, talk negatively about black people. And Power 96 says Kunisha Owens tweeted out Juneteenth is ghetto. And she did. And Charlemagne, yes, is still platforming her. Mike V wants Dawn Montgomery to debate Candace Owens. Yeah. She wouldn't stand a minute with Dawn either. But these guys, they go on with their nonsense. It- it's so sad. And in some cases, these guys, I mean, Charlemagne is an educated guy, but you wouldn't know it when he gets in front of a Candace Owens. And so, yeah, Austin says Candace Owens is he the type that would have turned in Harriet Tubman. But you give these guys and so many coming out. Lamar Odom and Caitlyn Jenner now has they just started a podcast. Folks, these are not journalists. Charlemagne is a personality. He's not a journalist. And they don't know. They have no clue. Um, Greer told me that Ray J was on and again showed you the ignorance that these black and I'm gonna say black men celebrities mostly, the ignorance of these black men celebrities, Snoop Dogg and um, Dr. Dre and Ice Cube and you could throw Sexy Red in there too, but again, I'm talking about the ignorance, the lack of civics 101, and these are the people who have platforms, right? They have followings because of their career, their music and other things, and they spew things. Charlemagne allowed Ray J to come on there and say he's got to, from what I understand, Greer told me he got to vote for you got to get Biden out of office and go with Trump because the mortgage interest rates are high. Are you kidding me? Do you even know how that works? No, you obviously don't. It's like the idiot said, "Oh, Trump gave us the $2,500 stimulus." Trump didn't give you jack. It wasn't Trump who gave you that. He signed his name on a check, which was unheard of. Congress, a Democratic Congress gave you that. It was Trump's people who fought against it. It was the Trump was the reason why. Go back and check it out. Sheila Jackson Lee, Maxine Waters, and others, Al Green, were saying during the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, we need to give them $2,500 at least a month until the pandemic is over. Just last year, they declared, President Biden last May declared the pandemic to be officially over. They wanted you to have $2,500 a month, at least 25, because it was 5,000 that they really wanted to give you, Democrats in Congress, the Congressional Black Caucus more specifically, but they had the votes. A month. for the duration of the pandemic. So think about it. From about April of 2020, when the first time you got a stimulus, because I think it happened twice. From April of 2020 to May of 2023, the Democrats wanted you to get $5,000 a month with no stipulations. But it was the MAGA crew who fought hard against it, fought hard against you getting anything, and compromised on two payments. One for $2,500, and the other one depended on whatever. There was some stipulations. Some got 20, another 2,500. Some got 1,000, or whatever it was. So let's just let's be real. Educate yourself, and Ray J. This whole idea of interest rates. Talk to your MAGA Congress people who continue to pay fast and loose with your livelihoods and who care less about you. Mhm. Are you playing that, Greer? That segment there with Charlemagne and Candace? I mean, if you want to. Because she makes my stomach turn. No, we're not playing that. We got what we're gonna do. What we're going to do is talk about some Black women empowerment. Is what we're gonna talk about. Talk to MC Lyte. MC Lyte about a week or so ago. Was it last week? Yeah, last week she called me, said, "Hey, I got a new uh song I want you to hear." She sent it over, and my wife and I was kind of jamming out to it. It's a powerful ode to womanhood. Um, it's so funny because we go to and her and I was talking about this because my wife and I go to the garden a lot, and when the Knicks play, the Nick City Dancers. The voiceover for the Nick City Dancers, the introduction and the state tune for the Nick City Dancers and et cetera, is MC Light. And she was telling me how she got that gig, um, and the choreographer told the garden, "Listen, this is the voice we want, and that's how it is." But this is a powerful ode to womanhood. She got together with Salt from Salt and Pepper. Big Daddy Kane is on the record. Raheem DeVaughn. It drops this morning. She dropped it to us first. I don't know if we got some sound, Greer.
Or a handout or a check. Just a humble spirit looking for a real connection. Love from the depths of my soul I am giving. Loyal to the death with a heart made to listen. Open to give and receive. Be the air that you breathe. Help you move into a king's position.
He she talked about how Raheem DeVaughn was really she was thinking about she was just recording. Her and Salt had talked about recording for a while. She told me, and she said she went to the studio. Raheem was already there, and she said he just started singing one word, woman, 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 and she said that's how the song really was born. Warren Campbell produced the song, and it has some bold well, I should say it's a bold and lyrical celebration of women across the globe, and she particularly, of course, singles out um, women of color. She has she's accomplished a lot. The first female rapper nominated for a Grammy Award, the first rap artist to perform at Carnegie Hall. She's been in TV shows, movies, SWAT, Power, Queen of the South, Girls Trip. She also and was an ambassador for our the NMPA and the Chevy discovered the unexpected fellowships, working with the college students. She's always working with the younger ones as well. Um, but this anthem is it's really cool. It's really a throwback. When you hear it with the music, it's a throwback to really her era. And we talked about her era, and she mentioned that the era before her and her era, there were more things like that. We remember self destruction and those type of anthems. She felt that hip hop really was taking the lead in a lot of things in her era and the era that preceded her. Not so much now, which she sort of laments a little bit, but she says that look, it takes a village, and she's still at the forefront of the fight. So MC Light, check out Woman. It's available today on your favorite streaming platforms. She laid it down, her and Salt and Raheem DeVaughn and Big Daddy Kane. Ain't no half stepping. There you have it. Folks, the American justice system and the laws of this country have profoundly shaped, defined, and constrained the lives of Black people for more than 400 years. Racial inequality has extremely deep roots in American society, and our Constitution, statutes, court cases, and regulations not only bear witness to this, but are often the source of it. The source of it. For instance, Ju- July 9th, 1640, in the first documented court case involving slavery in the colony of Virginia, John Punch, an African servant, ran away from his master with two other white servants. Well, the court sentenced the two white servants to longer periods of servitude while sentencing the black man, Punch, to slavery for life. The case marked the beginning of the creation of legal differences between whites and African Americans. Passed by the Virginia General Assembly, later came the Casual Killing Act of 1669. And that declared that if a slave died while resisting his master, the master would be deemed not to have acted with malice. What the law did, it effectively made it legal for masters to kill their slaves at will in the process of inflicting punishment. And fast forward to the congressional hearings on police misconduct that took place from June 16th, 1983 to November 28th, 1983, in the wake of widespread police brutality against African American residents in New York. The Congressional Subcommittee on Criminal Justice of the Judiciary Committee held a hearing in Harlem on police misconduct. It was chaired by Representative John Conyers, and the hearings consisted of testimony from dozens of witnesses and considered the possibility of federal intervention into the issue. Little bit of history. Well, why? Well, next week we're going to be introducing something to you called white noise. And we're going to ask a fundamental question with white noise, one that for 30 years now has perplexed many, have caused many of arguments, but certainly has caused a racial divide again in the criminal justice system or emanating from the criminal justice system. The question is, did OJ do it? We're going to tackle that next week. So stay tuned as we bring you that report about white noise. There's a lot more than OJ on that, though. But join us next week and share your thoughts on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and hit subscribe at LIBK News. Listen, thanks for tuning in. Everybody have a great and safe weekend. And if you're in the Northeast, it is going to be very rainy. It's going to pour the rain. And if you're out in Louisiana, stop by and have some crawfish and gumbo and watch Freaknik with Power 96. And we'll see you on Monday.